Hey everybody, I'm Anna McEwen. And now for Bob Switzer with the epic narrative.
Well, you all know my fear and trepidation that I deal with whenever I deal with technology. And to be fair, I've gotten used to this season. This season's new. Thank the Lord for my new laptop that some listeners bought for me at the beginning of season 3. Man, it was awesome. I mentioned it, I think, in the opening, the opening episode, and boom, man, God is so good. But it also meant a whole new system of recording and filing and all that stuff, and I'm almost used to it. I still reach out to Brian. Even though I know we're 30-something episodes in, I still reach out to Brian. I'll be like, I don't know what I did. Something happened. I'm pretty confident I didn't lose it, but I don't know where it is. You know, and he's very patient with me. I have had to share my screen with him several times, though. But I'm getting into a good rhythm. I think I know what I'm doing enough that at least I'm confident now that it's there somewhere. I used to think I lost it forever, but now I'm at least confident to be like, okay, it's there. I don't know where, but it's there. Anyways, yesterday, I'm used to watching like the little red line, the white lines. It's we use the GarageBand app on Apple, so that's what I record on, right? So I'm used to watching the little screen and the little white lines of my voice bouncing around. And all of a sudden that stopped moving. And I didn't know what happened. I wasn't paying attention. I was on a roll, kind of preachy. And I looked up and it wasn't moving. Like, I don't know. I didn't know what had happened. I don't know what stopped it, but praise God, it was still recording. Once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I don't know what I did. But at least I'm pretty sure we got the whole episode. But that's my life. And I appreciate you guys being a part of it. You guys are awesome. We're going to look at more chapters out of the book of Deuteronomy. Chapter 10. Moses kind of recounts for them in the first 11 verses the writing of the 10 commandments and the putting of it in the ark. So we have to remember that there were 2 arks, right? Moses built one out of wood, and then there was another one built out of gold during this time when he's writing this. And there were actually 2 tablets. Remember, Moses carved the 2 out of stone that went into the wooden ark, but there was also the first set of tablets that he broke. Now, the wooden ark contained, right, the 2 new tablets. And a lot of legends indicate that it also contained the pieces from the first tablets, the ones that God actually carved and wrote on. And some believe that Moses put those in there with the hope that God would put them back together. Because as I described in season 3, I just think they were some of the most beautiful, magnificent, living letters, movement, depth. I think that the stones were see-through, like glass almost. Like I just think they were spectacular. And I think when Moses shattered them, I think everything within him wished he hadn't. But I struggle with anger. I do, especially as a young man. So much so that my mom put me in counseling because I was violent in my frustration, and it all stemmed from believing I was stupid. So whenever I would do something stupid, like it just piled on this mountain of evidence that I was an idiot, and I would just violently lash out. And I'm not saying Moses thought he was stupid, but in that moment, his violent reaction stemmed from a deep root of some sort, because that's where violent reactions come from. And I think I like when I read those legends, I think, yeah, I don't think he left them there on the ground. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I think once he had that moment of like remorse or like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I think he swept them back up. So why wouldn't he put them back in? Or put them in a bag somewhere? I don't think he ever got rid of them. And Moses, the ones that he carved out, I don't think that they were ugly. Like Moses was, as you know, he was a gifted man, very well educated, highly creative, very skilled, but obviously not quite what God had created. So although what he brought down out of the mountain, I'm sure looked good, just not the same. So these words that were written by God were somewhere, I believe, and they could be seen. When you looked at them, I think they probably still had some movement to them. I believe that. I just do. I don't have any evidence for it. The first ark was made out of cedar wood, and it again was replaced with the golden ark. And so what happened to that? What happened to the wooden ark? Well, a lot of people believe it was hidden by the priests. And some believe that the pieces of the first 10 Commandments, the ones that God made, the pieces were left in the first ark. They were not transferred to the second ark. So those that got that first ark, wherever they put it, whatever they did with it, it contained the pieces of God's the hand of God, well, however he wrote it. And of course, we also have stories and legends of the second ark being hidden and some believe discovered, right? I don't know if you've seen them. I've seen a couple specials where they were discovered at some temple of something or something in Africa, and if you get permission, you can travel down this staircase deep in the ground, and you walk down this cavern, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is. And inside of it is Aaron's, rod and the 10 Commandments that Moses carved out. So only time will tell, I guess. Someday we may know. Some people maybe believe they already know. I don't know. For sure anyways. But it's fun to think about. Then in verses... Oh, yeah. Jumping on to verse 6. He talks about Aaron dying, was buried, and Eleazar, his son, succeeded him. And from there they traveled... and at the time the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the Ark of the Covenant and to stand before the Lord and minister him. So he's covered a lot of ground briefly, and we're going to do the same. Aaron's death was one of those markers in their lives, in the life of the nation. And so he's literally reminding them, you've lost the first high priest, and that's significant. Even if the next one is very good. Eleazar is a good guy. But I think it ties also into the tablets. He's like, we lost the first one. Second ones are good. The first one was better. And because of the way it's written, the literature of it, he's comparing Aaron to the same thing. The first one was amazing. The second one's good, but the first one was better. Same sort of rhythm as he writes this. And it's no diss to Eleazar. It's just a place of honor that Moses gives to his brother Aaron. So then he talks about fearing the Lord. Now Israel, verse 12, and now Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you? But fear the Lord your God, walk in obedience to him, love him, Serve the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul, and observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I have given you today for your own good. To the Lord your God belong the heavens and the earth, and the highest heavens and the earth and everything in it. And the Lord has set his affection on you and his ancestors to love them, and he chose you and their descendants above all the nations as they are today. So I think Moses, again, reiterating things, right? We literally, I believe we dealt with this last week in that episode. Same sort of rhythm. Fearing God, of course, has two basic levels. I just want to touch on this. The first level is you're afraid. You're afraid of punishment from God because he's so great and awesome and big and powerful and holy and just, and that's all you can think about. I don't deserve to live. I better be fearful that God's going to kill me. That's the mindset of a slave. The second level is the mindset of a son, a child of God. The second level is a loving awareness and awe of God's greatness. That his love and goodness isn't overwhelming like I don't deserve it. His love and goodness is like, oh my gosh, I get to represent this to others. This is amazing. His love and goodness is eternal. It's never going to run out. I could give it to everyone, and I'd still have all that I could ever imagine. It never runs out. I think a lot of times people like the idea that they're special, that God's love and kindness and the fact that he chose me over someone else, like that becomes very addictive to people, very they become their ego becomes attached to it. Because as a slave, if you believed that the master chose you over all the other slaves, that was a good thing, right? You'd sit there and say, hey, I get special treatment. Hey, the master smiled at me. Hey, I don't get whipped as much. And I believe the Lord steps up and says, hey, I love you, and there's no need to fear punishment. But slaves can't, it's tough for us. Slaves just do that. So God's love and his goodness toward us as a son, that becomes a motivation to share it with everyone else. But the exclusionary love of a master becomes addictive, and it actually perpetuates the idea that we don't, even when we share God's love, we share it from a position of, I have something special and I'm good enough to share it with you if you're willing to do, quote, do what's necessary, say the right words, and behave the proper way so that you could have it too. I'm just a nice enough guy to share it with you. It's fascinating how that's impacted evangelism around the world. Then in verse 21, he says, he is the one you praise. He is your God who performed for you all the great and awesome wonders that you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars of the sky. So he just reminds them, hey, here's your promise. God alone is to be praised. And because of your praise to him, you will also be praised. Just remember your story. Remember your journey. Don't forget where you came from. You went down to Egypt 70 strong, and now look, you're as numerous as the stars, which again, exaggeration, but I don't mind that because I believe the Bible's inspired. But for those of you that believe that it's infallible, inerrant, and self-evidentizing, you're going to have a little issue with these artistic words. It gets a little shaky for you. It gets a little shaky for you because obviously they were not as numerous as the stars in the sky. Chapter 11, it says, love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commandments. Yeah, you love the Lord your God. Why? It's followed by a list of things to do. Why would he do that? he comes out, he talks all about what happened. Verse 4, what he did to the Egyptian army, to the horses and the chariots, and how he overwhelmed them in the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did. It was not your children who saw these things in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did at Dotham and Abiram and Elab and Reubenites. Anyways. Oh. Moses is basically on repeat. And he's basically saying you need to love God. If you love God, all these things that you do will be easy. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, where we all do things for the people we love, not because they gave us a list of things to do, but because we love them. And that may be a casual friend, a neighbor. It could be someone at church, and it could be your spouse. It could be your kids. You do things for them. We're going to have all the kids over soon. We have all the kids over. What do? Well, we find out what they like. We remember what they like. We try to make sure that when they get here, they're comfortable. Why? Because we love them, not because they showed up and said, hey, do these things for us or we're not going to be happy. Verse 4. It talks about the Egyptians, right? The books of the law. The key to doing is loving. Fear works for a while, but love works forever. Those are some of the key phrases that Moses, or key concepts that Moses keeps throwing out here in the books of the law. Fear works for a while, but love works forever. Love is a relationship. It's trust. It's freedom. Fear is transactionary. It's selfish. It's survival. Love is relationship, trust, and freedom. Fear is transaction. It's selfish, and it's survival. These are things that the kingdom of God is battling against. Verses 10 through 12, he says, the land is better than when you left it. And yet people still wanted to go back to Egypt. Where is that? Verse 10, the land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt from which you came, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in the vegetable gardens. But the land you are crossing into in the Jordan, take possession of this land, the mountains and the valleys, and that drinks the rain from heaven. It's the land of the Lord your God, as he cares for you, and the eyes of the Lord will continually be upon it from the beginning of the year to its end. He's saying, listen, I know a lot of you want to go back to Egypt. You've spent some of you have spent your entire lives in a place where you have no land. You have nowhere to go. And because of that, you are thinking, let's negotiate. We can find ourselves a good place to live. And living there, Egypt's going to be happy, we'll be happy. And he talks about the watering of the land. He's like, in this land that you're going to take, you don't have to dig a hole and let the water seep up from the bottom, which is basically the way things are watered in Egypt, because it all had to come from the Nile. Or you had to build irrigation by kicking trenches out with your feet so that your vegetable gardens could live. He's like, the land that's flowing with milk and honey, it gets its rain from the mountains. It comes down through the valleys, and rivers and streams. You're going to love it. Egypt would have negotiated, I have no doubt. And much like he talked about earlier, right, with the two arcs, this one's better. Egypt was good. This one's better. You're going to love it. And then, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Oh, in verse 13. So if you faithfully obey the commands of the Lord I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and your mind and soul. God will be part of all seasons. Remember that in the worshiping of idols, there were gods that disappeared. That way, the rain god disappeared during the summer god disappeared during the rain. He's like, you have a God that's always with you, never disappears. Don't forget that. Be reminded he is always with you. And if you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, all these things are going to be added to you. When it says hearken, some of you might say, in verse 13, faithfully obey, hearken to the Lord. Hearken is not only carries with it the idea of remembering what you've already learned, but it also carries with it the idea of getting fresh insights by reviewing and understanding the words that are written. The word hearken is more than just one thing. The word hearken carries with it a lot of things, because it's not only remembering what you've already learned, but it's continuing in relationship with God so you continue to get fresh insights. Now, that's something that a lot of conservative evangelicals get very, very freaky about, because they only want you to study and hearken to the word. But that word hearken actually carries with it the rhythm of saying it's not just about the written word, it's about the relationship with God where you hear new insights. And the word heart is a sense of prayer, spiritual soul that is carrying the character and resulting behavior of God that you are in relationship with. That's what it means to have your heart. Follow him with all your heart, soul, and mind. It has more than one thing. It's a sense of prayer, of spirituality, and the soul is the carrying of the character and resulting behavior that comes from that. It's a fascinating thing when we break down these words. It's amazing. And then in verses 26 through 32, a blessing and a curse. If you obey the commands of the Lord your God I'm giving to you this day, the curse, if you disobey the commands of the Lord I give you this day. In other words, you reap what you sow. You make a choice. You reap what you sow. Obey, disobey. The choice is yours. You have the freedom to go and to be and to become, etc., but you reap what you sow. And that moves us on to chapter 12. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful of and to follow. The God of your ancestors giving you the possession of the land as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places of worship. Basically, he continues on. Verse 4, you must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place of the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes and put his name there for his dwelling place. That is the place you must go. He's like, listen, I know it's going to be hard. You're going to get in there. The land needs to be cleansed. It's going to take a while. Again, if this was a battle plan, the Lord would have given him a battle plan. He's like, it's not a battle plan. I'm not sending you there to kill everyone. I'm sending you there because it's going to take a while. And as you go, it's going to be very easy to incorporate their idols into your lives, because it's just a little thing. It's just a little goat idol out here in the fields where the grass is grown and the goats eat. It's not a big deal. Lord's like, cleanse the land. It's just a little idol. It's just this, it's out here in the river because of the river god and whatever. It's not a big deal. God says, cleanse the land. He doesn't say kill everyone. He's like, get the idol worship out. When you come across it, get rid of it. Don't incorporate it. He doesn't say be rude to those who worship that. When you have an opportunity, get rid of it. Don't look at it and think, no big deal. Or this is really expensive. This person paid a lot for this. This person has an idol that was, carved out of gold, bejeweled with jewels. I think we'll keep it. It looks pretty over there. Get rid of it. Don't hang on to it. Idols were everywhere. Everybody had them. Anybody could build them, carve them, whatever. The Lord also says, don't worship the Lord your God like they worship the idols. Don't incorporate their form of worship. There's going to be a place for you to worship God, a place for you to sacrifice to the Lord. When that is set up, that is where you go. Don't build your own altars, do your own thing, sacrifice your bull, pray to God in the way that they do, which is what they would do, right? Everybody had their own family altar. You had the tribal altar. You had the regional altar. You had the national altar. Don't build 1,000 altars to God. There's going to be one. Go there, worship him. That's how you worship God. The land will be cleansed from the evil influence. And with so many, Moses was encouraging them. Don't just turn them into altars for, that's another thing, right? There's so many altars all over the place. Don't just turn them into altars for God. Don't settle. Again, verse 10, there's no battle plan. God's going to give you the land. One of the most frustrating things for the enemy is when we rest. When we rest, instead of getting angry, worked up, and doing battle, the enemy is frustrated. And in his frustration, he'll overstep, overplay, and ultimately lose. And that's what the Lord says. You rest. Sorry. I'm going to go down to verse way down. Going way down. Scrolling. Verse 29, the Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and depossess. But when you have driven them out and settled their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, how do these nations serve these gods? Because we might want to do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods, they do all kinds of detestable things that the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to gods. See that you do all that I command you to do, and do not add or take away from it. What's he encouraging them? He's like, listen, God's going to take care of your enemies. He will give you the land. You get to settle it. Don't fall into their sin. Their sin is what's going to cause their destruction. God is going to protect you like he did in Egypt, and he's going to let the enemy do what the enemy likes to do, which is kill, steal, and destroy. If you worship God the way that they worship their gods, you're going to end up doing and having the same results. God will protect those who love him, and you are going to let the enemy try to protect you, but the enemy doesn't try to protect you. The enemy is always out to destroy you. God hates what sin does to his creation and to his children. God doesn't hate his children. He loves them all, but he hates what the enemy does with his children. He hates what the evil does to his children, and he wants it to end. Always wants it to end. And the only way it ends is when you love God and love people with all your heart and with all your soul. When you're in relationship with that God, it impacts every aspect of your life and ultimately will impact the nation. And we are called to disciple and impact nations, and we do that by loving God and loving people. So keep up the good work, everyone. Keep loving God and loving people, and we will be back here next week on the Epic Narrative Podcast to read more about what Moses has to say is so important as he closes in on the day of his We won't call it his death. The day of his arrival into a new realm. See you next week, everyone.
Don't go anywhere. We've got Bob Thoughts.
And we're back with some of my thoughts. I'll tell you this. I listen. I appreciate those of you that have muscled through this season. I know we got like 5 more left. 6 more, 40. We have 45 total. And this is episode 38. So yeah, we got more than 5, Bob. If you're on 38, me and math. Anyways, appreciate you guys bustling through. I mean, I listened to this and I thought I listened at double speed because, man, the pauses were driving me crazy. But I know what I was doing. You know, I've got a lot of those verses. You read the two chapters we went through, right? A lot of those verses. There's no story necessarily in there. There's a story behind what was said. So I'm learning a lot. I will get better at it in the future when we're in the prophets and that sort of thing. But I appreciate you guys muscling through. I really do. I am excited for the next season because it is story. It's back to epics. Joshua, as I said last time, I think I came into Joshua with my Sunday school optimism. You know, hey, he's a wonderful guy, and then when you actually read what's going on and realize the decisions he made that were not the commands of God, the decisions Joshua made, because God left it up to him, you realize who the genocidal bipolar lunatic is. And by the end of it, I really believe there's evidence that he looks back at the decisions he's made about how to take the promised land, and he realizes it didn't work. It didn't work. I should have went with the plan that Abraham seemed to have, not the one that Moses and I cooked up. Anyways, I think you'll enjoy next season. I really do. And then, of course, we got Judges, which is filled with all kinds of insane things happening in Judges. And Ruth, oh my gosh, who doesn't love Ruth? It's a love story. Oh my goodness. You're going to love Ruth. Even if you've been to 17 women's conferences and they all dealt with Ruth, you're going to love it. There's nothing not to love about Ruth. Nothing not to love. Anyways, so get ready for next season. We will take a couple weeks off in between seasons just to give Brian a break, a little breather. Bless his heart, man. He's a hardworking dude. And yeah, then we will kick it off. You'll see promos for it, for sure. Anna will put those together. My beautiful daughter, she's amazing. All right, hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you picked up a few little things about the nuances of the things that Moses was writing as he's ending his life, and knowing that it's coming to an end, knowing that the people are going into the promised land. I hope you enjoyed those little nuances. Have yourself a fabulous, fabulous day. See you next week on The Epic Narrative.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to this podcast on any platform you use. You can also reach out to Bob for questions or booking at thebobswitzer.com or email him at thebobswitzer@gmail.com. See you next week, guys.